Hello, today we are doing percent problems, solving them. We are still using proportions and cross multiplying. So we are going to be looking for either a number or a percent of a number today. So it says you can represent A is the percent of B using a proportion. So this side is the percent side, what percent out of 100, and this side A and B are just what numbers are we looking at. Are we looking at what is the number 4 out of 20, what percent is that? So we're going to set up a proportion. It's always going to be the part on the top in the numerator and then the whole in the denominator. So one side is going to be the percentages and the other is going to be the numbers. So first, let's take a look here. It says, what percent of 25 is 17? So the whole number is 25, part is 17. What percent of 25, when it says of, that usually tells you it's the total. What percent of 25 is 17? So what percent are we looking for is what we're trying to figure out. Out of what whole percent out of 100% total? So all we're going to do is cross multiply to figure out what percent is 17 of 25. So let's cross multiply here. We're doing 25 times x is 25x. 17 multiplied by 100 is 1,700. And then dividing by 25, 25 divided by 25. Now we have to do 1,700 divided by 25. 1,700 divided by 25 gives me 68. So 17 is 68% of 25. It's a little bit over half, which makes sense. So remember, we were looking for a percent as our answer. It is 68% of 25. So now the next one, it says what percent, again we're looking for a percent, of 20, so 20 is our total number, of 20 is 15. Out of 100%, we need to figure out what percent is 15 of 20. So we're going to cross multiply. I know some of you can simplify this first, but I'm just going to straight up cross multiply. 20 times x is 20x. 15 times 100, we're just multiplying by 10 twice to get to 100, so we're really adding two zeros. And then dividing by 20. 1,500 divided by 20 gives us 75. So remember, we were looking for a percent. So x is 75%, which means 15 is 75% of 20. It's 3/4 of the way to 20. Here, we're going to do a couple more, but now we're looking for a number. What number, so when we set up our proportion, one side equal to the other side, we're figuring out what number is 30% of a total of 90. Remember, on the left I'm having my numbers, on the right I'm having my percents. I have my percents. 30% is 30% of 100%, we know that. But we want to figure out what number is 30% of 90. So we're going to cross multiply. 100 times x is 100x. 90 times 30, well 9 times 3 is 27. And we multiplied by 10 twice, they both have a 0. So then I'm going to divide by 100. And x, oopsies, go away. X will equal, those eliminate, 27. So what number is 30% of 90? Would be 27. Alright, now again, I'm going to do a little squiggle here, so I set up my proportion on one side and I have more room to solve here. What percent, so I know I'm looking for what percent out of 100% is or of 136, so of tells you that's the total number. Of this total number, 136, is 51. So again, just cross multiplying 136 times x. 51 times 100 is 5,100. And then divide by 136. So I'm going to take 5,100 divided by 136, and I get an answer of 37.5. So, does that make sense? 51 out of 136, it's not even half yet, which makes sense. This is 37.5%, because they were asking for a percent. The next one asks us for a number. What number is 15% of 88? So 15% is our percent out of 100%. 88 is our total, because it says of the total 88. We want to know what number is in relation or proportion to the 15%. So we're trying to figure out what number goes on the top. Cross multiplying. 100 times x is 100x. 88 times 15, I don't know what that is. I would multiply it and get 1,320. I just have my calculator sitting next to me, which I'm plugging these in. And then dividing by 100, we get x equal to, if we divide by 100 here, we have 132 divided by 10, which would be 13.2. Now, these ones, when they're looking for a number, some of you know the shortcut. You're really just taking your cross-multiplying here and dividing by 100. Pretty simple, but it helps to show your work so we know how we're getting each step. So our answer is 13.2 is 15% of 88. Next, what number is 140% of 50? So when I set up my proportion here, out of 100%, they're looking for 140%, which is fine. Normally, well, always, 100% is our total. We're looking for more than 100%. We're looking for 140% of 50. So this number that we're looking for up here is going to be bigger than 50 because we're looking for 140% of 50. So it's got to be bigger than 50. So cross multiply, we have 100x equal to 140 times 50 gives me 7,000 exactly. And then dividing by 100, those eliminate. Dividing by 10 here, 70 would be our answer. Does that make sense? 70 is bigger than 50, 140% is bigger than 100%, so it makes sense that our answer would be larger than 50. So 70 is 140% of 50. Next, find the whole from the part given. So we're finding the number in our denominator. Remember, part is on top, whole is on bottom. 20 is 12.5% of what number? So out of 100%, we have 12.5. And 20 is in relation to the 12.5. They're on the same part. 20 is the 12.5% of what number they're looking for. So when we cross multiply, 20 times 100 is 2,000. 12.5 times x is 12.5x. And then just divide by 12.5. So we have 2,000 divided by 12.5 gives me 160. And think about it, that makes sense. 20 is a small percentage of whatever number we're looking for. So this is a big number, 160. would go there. Next, 65 is, oopsies, I didn't mean to make that so big. 65 is 62.5% of what number? So we want to figure out what number total. 65 is in proportion to the 62.5% out of 100%. So when we cross multiply, 62.5x is really equal to 65 times 100, or 6,500. And then dividing by 62.5. I'm going to use my calculator. 6500 divided by 62.5. There's a decimal there, it's hard to see. Gives me exactly 104. And it makes sense that 65 is close-ish to 104 because we have 62%, over half of it. 65 is over half of 100. This last one, it says solve a real-world percent problem. A survey asked 220 students to name their favorite pasta dish. Find the percent of students who chose the given pasta dish. So we have two problems we need to solve. They're giving us all the students over here, but they told us already that there's 220. We don't need to add those up. So we have all the different types of pasta listed there. It makes me hungry. First, we're going to look at just macaroni and cheese. Macaroni and cheese is right here. We had 33 people that chose that. We're looking for the percent of students. We don't know what percent, that's what we're trying to find. So we want what percent out of 100, and we know there were 220 students total. Remember, our total goes on the denominator, our part is on the top. We had 33 out of 200 choose this. So we're going to cross multiply. 33 times 100 is 3,300, equal to 220x. Divide by 220. So 3,300 divided by 220 gives us 15. So they were asking for what percent of the students. So this would be 15% of the students chose macaroni and cheese. Let's do the same thing now, but for lasagna. Lasagna was, I'm going to use a different color here, we'll use green. Lasagna was 40 students. So, we're doing part B. We had 40 students out of a total of 200 students. We want to know what percent is that of 100%. So cross multiplying, 220 times x equal to 40 times 100, or 4,000. Alright, and then we're just going to divide by 220. Again, we're looking for a percent, so my answer I'm going to be something percent. 4,000 divided by 220. It's a decimal, you guys. It's 18.18, and the 18 repeats over and over and over again. If you wanted to round that to about, little squigglies mean about 18%, that would be fine. Alright, your homework is here. Be careful if they're asking you for a percent on some of these. Make sure you list the percent symbol. Otherwise, they're just asking you for a number.